Good day, viewers. You're welcome to the National Orientation Agency NRA Dialogue. The Dialogue is a weekly sensitization program of the agency. Today we have a very valuable topic, very heart-touching topic, because it has to do with leadership. And we all know that leadership is key in any society. Leadership is a platform upon which all other structures are built upon. Leadership provides direction. That's why in every organization, no matter how small that organization is at all levels, you hardly can see a vacuum. There's always a leader to provide direction. And this leadership has to come through a process. Now, the process through which this leadership comes from will likely determine whether the leadership is going to succeed, whether the leadership is going to be accepted, whether the leadership will be open to all people. And that brings us to the topic today: leadership recruitment and the challenge of grassroots governance. To discuss this all-important topic with me today, I have Barrister Young Ayotamno on my immediate right. Barrister Young Ayotamno is the incumbent State Director of the National Orientation Agency, River State. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning.
And on my immediate left, I have Prince Ezebo. Prince is from the Social Action River State. Prince, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, this all-important topic, leadership recruitment process. Leadership recruitment process. State Director, I want to start with you. What is this leadership recruitment process all about?
Well, when we talk about leadership recruitment process, we are talking about the activities, we are talking about the processes, we are talking about actually the laws, activities, processes that actually throws up the leadership that we have. For instance, when we talk about leadership, we are talking about in governance, we are talking about those who will preside over not only the leadership of the country, but we're also talking about those who will preside over the resources. You know, when we talk about politics, the politics of the place actually, and the economy of the place, who decides what, who has what, when, where, and at what time, and in what quantity. So these are the things that we are talking about. Ultimately, the object of leadership is that people should live well, there should be good governance. Indeed, some people have described it as the happiness for the highest number of people. So that is what we are talking about. So we are talking about how to bring about the people that should govern at any point in time. It could be at the community level, it could be at the local government level, it could be at the state level, at the federal level, even at the family level. You know, there is always leadership. So that is what we are talking about.
Prince, do you have anything to add to what the State Director has just said?
Leadership recruitment is very, very important, because the primary role of a leader is to motivate people, is to give people direction, is, if his goals are well planned, is to bring about inclusion and development. So the process of getting leaders is even more important than the leader itself, because you find that leaders come from among the people. It is the duty of the people, therefore, to select or appoint or elect who becomes their leader, except in a position where it is hereditary. Then the people may or may not have so much to do in deciding who becomes the leader. However, whoever emerges as a leader of a group, an organization, a state, or a country must have that positive nature, that result-oriented nature, in an inclusive manner, in such a way that you must hear from the people. It's like communication. If I say something and you don't hear what I say, I haven't communicated. That's the easiest way to describe.
So Senator, from what Prince has said now, meaning that the process is key. The process through leadership emerges is key, and the process must be thorough, must be seen to be free, fair, and credible for people to buy into it and accept it.
Yes, I agree with what he said. He talked about the issue of inclusion as key. And he said it's a two-way thing, using communication as a basis to exemplify that inclusion that he talked about. So you are going to coordinate a lot of activities, and you are not coordinating in a vacuum. You are going to deal with people, and so the buy-in of the people into that recruitment process is important. That is the emphasis that he has made.
Prince,
yes.
Prince, if I may ask, how would you assess this recruitment process in the context of Nigeria? How would you assess it?
Unfortunately, the process of recruiting leaders in our Nigerian experience in the current time has become something with little or no flair for you to want to be part of it. In Nigeria, we've come to a point of situation where people who should be in leadership position are no longer interested in leadership because of one or two reasons. But again, the more good men begin to stay away from positions, it's the more we give room for charlatans and never-do-wells to come into positions and leadership. So therefore, it is important that in trying to recruit, in trying to see who becomes a leader, in trying to see the processes, we as a people also look at those that are interested in coming to contest for governorship of a state, president of a country, the chairman of a local government, or councillors. The key word should be integrity. Are they people of integrity? Are they people who, when they say yes, the yes is yes? And if tomorrow, as a result of circumstances, the yes moves from capital letter yes to small letter yes, you come to discuss with us and tell us. That's the kind of leadership that Nigeria should ordinarily have. Unfortunately, we now have leaders who don't care about the people. We now have leaders who sleep and wake up and do what they want to do. We now have leaders who assume that they are gods amongst men. That is the problem that we have currently in Nigeria. Therefore, as citizens of Nigeria, Rivers State, and people in Obi or Faga, we need to go back to the basics. Integrity, family life. People who have worked, who have experience. That is the way to go back.
Now, talking about this leadership you just mentioned, they become gods unto themselves. They become gods unto themselves. They don't care about the people. They don't consult, because they said, when your capital yes turn to small letter yes, you have to come back to the people and tell them, explain the reason.
Yes.
Now, would you say that this attitude is as a result of the process that brought them? Because that is the key. That the process of the process through which they came from.
Because in reality, if you ask, do people come out to vote these days from their hearts, from their conscience? No. In Rivers State, there has been cases where there has always been the Rivers governorship debate. Oftentimes, the major gladiators who win these elections don't come. They stay away from such activity. And it's a platform where you're supposed to come and tell Rivers people what you want to do on a national and international scale, so that tomorrow people can hold you accountable. But what you now get in Rivers is that you find people who know that these parties don't have the structure to win elections. However, they still come to try to get the buy-in of the people. It's important that leaders come and talk to the people. You need to come and ask for their votes. And in asking for votes, you make promises that are realistic, knowing that in the past 2 years, the past 4 years, River State has had at least 20 billion monthly. If it's okay, if you then down to your analysis, okay, maybe we'll have 15 billion in my tenure. Maybe we'll have 12 billion in my tenure. If you have such a plan and you work, you'll be able to come and tell the people exactly what you want to do. Not waking up and doing what you want to do. Because it is the people who will use these amenities that you will bring when you become governor. So the process is important. And the behavior of human beings, the behavior of Nigerians or those who vote are also important. Who are you voting? What is he offering that has made you to want to vote for him? Is an important ingredient in these leaders.
No, in essence, what they say, both the leadership and process.
It's a two-way thing. Governance is a two-way thing.
The
governing and the governed.
Say that, but let me take you on this. Is that how has this recruitment process affected governance at the grassroots level? How has it affected, governance at the grassroots level?
Certainly, it's work in progress. If I should do a holistic assessment, work in progress. Some people are bound to argue that work is on, but there has been no progress. Social action, as Prince just mentioned here, he mentioned that integrity is not there, but the integrity issue is actually a two-way process. Yes, people have the feeling that representatives or governments at one point or the other have not done well. At the same time, the electorates themselves are also part of the problem. We have had this issue of vote buying and vote selling for quite some time now. And this vote buying and vote selling on the long run also affects what he has called the integrity question. It also impacts on accountability. Because when, as a citizen, being part of the electorate, when you sell your votes, and the man who is aspiring, we are assuming that this leadership now is under a democracy, and when the man who is aspiring gets in there, the first thing he does is to recoup his investments. There is no gainsaying the fact that whether in the advanced democracies or even here, around the world here, there is no gainsaying the fact that certainly the politics involved is capital intensive. So that also affects the process of recruitment, whereby there's a lot of money going into our politics from the time of buying the intent form, the interest form, the intent form, and then the form for aspirants. All that takes a lot of money, and then the entire structure you have to put in place to win an election. And all these processes, money is brought out. There are no proper checks on how much is being put into the electoral process. At the end of the day, whomever has bought your votes and has gotten there, first of all, recoups his capital. So it's a work in progress. We are seeing a situation where even those who are conducting the election, like the regulators, after the conduct of the election, they are being held to account. We just had the case of a professor in a nearby state who was held to an account. He was taken to court, and whoever took him to court had judgments that he violated the process. So gradually we'll come to it, but we are too slow about it. Even the process, the machinery of this recruitment, for so long now we have been talking about electronic voting. For so long we have been talking about electronic voting. We have not yet experimented on it. 1 or 2 states have experimented on it at the local government level. Even the outcome of it, the electronic voting that we experimented, even the outcome, it was still contested by those who felt that they are not, they did not succeed. So it's something that will come. But central in it is the issue that we must put people who will be accountable to the electorates, and the process must also be transparent for the regulators and also for the electorates, that they should actively participate. They should know what they are doing. They should have enough education. And these are all part of the recruitment process that we should be looking at.
viewers at home, you can now start streaming live, send in your participation in form of questions, in form of contributions, because definitely they are going to add flesh to this all-important discussion for today. Now, Prince, let me throw this at you. Is there a correlation between the leadership recruitment process and the level of political participation? Because for the recruitment, for people to buy in, to accept, leadership, they must participate, they must own it. That is only when leadership can actually be responsible to the people. That is when leadership can actually, take the people into cognizance. So is there a correlation between the process and participation?
Well, unfortunately, be it as it may, there is a correlation. The process is what brings about leadership. And for leadership to come, people would have participated, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Like the state director said, vote buying and vote selling, however it comes, is also about participation, but from the negative angle of participation. However, our duty here is to enlighten people on the positive way of participation, because there's a strong correlation. The issue now is it a positive correlation or a negative correlation? And for us to get proper development and leaders who want to develop communities, states, and any nation, it has to be a positive correlation. Just a few days ago, the German chancellor handed over. Germans came out from their houses and came by telling him, I was clapping for over 6 minutes. That's a woman who has led the country for over 18 years. Yes. And they wanted her back. And she said, I'm getting old. It's time for someone else to come. That is what leadership is all about.
At this point, let's take some comment from viewers, live viewer. We have here from Bekimo Williams, Nigeria have lost trust and confidence in the entire process. How do we bring back that trust? Say Director, sir. How do we bring back that trust?
What is a project for all stakeholders to restore that trust? First, for those who are the Nigerian political process is built around political parties. The constitution does not allow for independent candidature. And so the political parties themselves have a role. The electorates, they have a role. The civil society organizations, they have a role. NGOs have a role. Because as it is now, the whole situation appears easy. There must be a process of holding people to account. Part of the trend that we're having, if there's a downward trend, it is because the people have also lost, like the person who asked the question, like the question said, that it appears people have lost trust. People have lost trust in the process. And part of it is because they are somewhat alienated. Because after voting the candidates that have been put forward for another 4 years, I've alluded to the fact that the electoral process itself is very expensive. And because of the process of vote buying and vote selling, sometimes you don't see those that have been voted in throughout their tenure. They come back when it is another election period. So these are some of the things that have affected us. But for us to do it right, there has to be processes of making sure that these people, from time to time, we should be able to see their scorecard. What have they done? For the parties, we also expect that you don't just bring manifestos, but you are held to account based on the programs that you have presented to people. It is not just for fun. Governance is a very serious business. And for the CSOs, I have always talked about political education, continuous political education, because of where we find ourselves. And that has always been the stand of the National Orientation Agency, that in between elections, there shouldn't be a break. and political education. In fact, the issue of political education, talking about regaining the trust and confidence of the people, goes to political parties. The trend we find in this country, and in fact in this part of the world, is that after elections, political parties don't do anything again until the next election. And they leave some of these things to the CSOs to provide the gap. I should also say that even for the CSOs, many of them, they have challenges of funding. And until it's election time, some of them, their parent bodies don't provide any funds until it's election time. And when they provide such funds, they are structured into making sure that the elections are held peacefully, into making sure that the process are on. So the electoral process in the area of education by the parties for their members, because if you educate a party man that is going to represent you as a candidate, if you educate him well, when he gets in there, he will always have the interest of the party at heart. He will know that the party is watching him. So that in itself. And then the process of recruitment, which is the major discussion here. The process of recruitment has to be very open and transparent. Not a matter of imposing a godfather, imposing a candidate by a godfather or anybody that is playing God in the name of being a gladiator in one place or the other. Leave it open. Let everybody, so that people will see that it is open, it is transparent, and it is credible. So internal democracy of the parties and how these candidates or these leaders are thrown up, that also is very important. And if we have restore confidence.
We also have another comment here from Esanjube Richard Andy. This degradation in Nigerian recruitment process is the fault of all the stakeholders involved in the process. Prince, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. I agree because, like I said, governance is its waiting. Governance is about the governor and the governed. So when these two people work together, that's what brings about governance. So everybody in the political process has failed the Nigerian political projects. Like the doctor was saying, the recruitment process starts with the parties who will make it open. And remember that first, transparency without accountability is charity. And that's what's happening right now. Where somebody sits somewhere and says, you have to be the next governor. You have to be the next chairman. No, that is no longer that political process that brings about leadership. It's no longer that process that brings about leaders who have a vision and mission. So we need to go back to what it used to be, where people would come out and decide who flags the party's flag, who others will stand behind and queue. We have to go back to that process where people say, I think we trust this person. This person has delivered before. He has worked somewhere. When he headed that organization, when he did this, he was able, he was transparent, he was accountable, he had integrity, he was open. Those are kind of qualities we need now in Nigerian politics. So you find that we as those who come to vote also fail. Unfortunately, they call it stomach infrastructure, but I keep asking people who has died so far from it.
We also still have from Esanjube Richard Ali, said, kindly do a comparison between when democracy started in Nigeria and now. Has the recruitment process improved or has it become worse? State Director, I want you to respond to this one.
When democracy started, the question is when, in terms of historical epochs, when did democracy actually start? We started well as parties. As parties, the country started well. And then it was all about the formation of nationalist parties. And what was the interest? The interest was independence. But when independence came to the limelight, we now saw these nationalist parties actually being reduced into ethnic organizations. And so you had three major parties. The three major parties, the MPC in the north, the AG, and then for us, what was supposedly be a national party, the NCNC gradually became a regional party too. And then went on, there was a federal election, and you know that with this background of ethno-religious parties at the various regions, we ended up in 1965 with the federal elections, and after that, there was problem, and that led us to the dark side of our history, a civil war. And after that, the Second Republic, we also saw the emergence of a cleavages. Some were regional parties, some were national parties. In fact, one or two of them were actually national parties that were able to garner support across the country, that formed the government. That's the National Party of Nigeria that had that support. In the Third Republic, we also started, that's with the military. The military tried to bring in, at the end of the day, two political parties. That was the Third Republic, the NRC, SDP. These ones, they were designed, the processes were designed to throw up nationalist parties. Because we can't deny the fact that both the SDP and the NRC were nationalist parties, and they did well. Now we came to the Fourth Republic, where we are now. We also had these parties tried to have national parties building on the Third Republic. The Third Republic was aborted shortly when the election was nullified nationwide. So the Fourth Republic tried to build on it, and the same thing when you talk about bringing in candidates, people that didn't even avert their minds to contesting, to returning as leaders of the country. One way or the other, they came in. And because of the way the Third Republic, nullification of electoral processes, nullification of the ballots, the lack of, for reasons of lack of internal democracy, in fact, you find a lot of people, they became lukewarm and so couldn't present themselves for what should have been a first grade, first 11. All of them, technocrats and so on, they couldn't present themselves. And so, a country is as good as the leadership that it throws up. And that is where we are. Presently, you also will notice that ethnic cleavages have begun to
I want you to dwell more on the electoral recruitment process. Is it getting worse or is it getting better?
The electoral recruitment process.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Is it from the beginning? Are we improving? Are we making a headway compared to when we started?
Let me say that for now we appear to be stagnant, and talking about internal democracy. There has been a lot of question about internal democracy, because most people will tell you that the candidates that they see at various elections, that these are candidates that the political gladiators, just imposed on them. But that in itself is contentious. And the more dangerous dimension today is that you hear in government fraternities. Fraternities are virtually taking over governments at different levels. And this for us is very, very dangerous, and we need to check it. It needs to be checked. Fraternities, people that hold fraternal relationships, getting into government and hijacking the entire Commonwealth, for the promotion of their fraternal interest. These are some of the things that we need to look at and make sure that we check them.
The comments are fast coming in. Chinwe here, it is pertinent to know that any process that is epitomized with malpractices and violence is bound to fail in provisions of governance. Well, yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Ellison Riadaba here said the challenge with leadership recruitment in Nigeria include one: most people who emerge as leaders, we are just dragged into leadership position without them being prepared or trained for such position. I think he continued, but I think he has just made the point here. Yeah, please, yes. Can you throw a little more light? People are dragged into leadership position. They don't have any clue about. You see politicians often make statements like that. I have my brother. He's in Lagos. He just finished school. He's not doing anything. this position, the councillorship position has been given to me. Come and take it. He does not have any business. He's not even a politician. So that kind of thing, does it really help the system or it kills the system? Just throw a little light more.
It kills the system because politics is a serious business. It should be for those who have interest in politics first, because the greatest of all power is the political power. With political power, you can give direction to economic power. You can give the direction to management power. You can give it to any kind of power that you want to talk about, even religious. With political power, you can give direction to every other kinds of power.
People should have clue what they are going
People
to.
should be interested. People should, at the age of going close to 18, just when you in fact, when you're in secondary, you should know that I want to be a medical doctor. I want to be a politician. Simple and short. Or you say, I want to be a parliamentarian. Or I want to be an executive. Then you start working towards that. At that level, we understand this person has a direction. This person knows where he's going to, and all of that. And no matter how difficult things may be, when you appear on that field, you know exactly what to do because you have planned for it. You are prepared for it. Whether the constitution says school start or not is not an issue. Somebody who has had that idea before you attend school start, you would have had some level of preparation, knowing that to be a councillor, you need to know 1, 2, 3, 4. To be the chairman, you go beyond 4 to 7. To be the governor, you need to know up to 10 and all of that. That is how the process should be. Such that I shouldn't go to my village and bring my brother because he has graduated and he does not have a job. What will he do?
Yeah, now we still have some comments still coming in. Let me just take this one so that I go back to there are very important questions I will need to come up with. Except Richard Alide said accountability is key. The elected leaders should be held accountable by the people they represent. Most citizens do not know their rights in this process. How can a community be without light and power, and they have a representative? Now,
that one is even minor.
What I want to ask from this is that what is making the citizens so docile? Why is it that they don't seem to hold elected leaders accountable? They are docile. They don't maybe I don't know whether sometimes they don't even know what to do. Why is that happening?
Fatigue are setting. Even me, I'm not sure I'm traveling to my ward this evening, so I'll go and go tomorrow. Why? It's fatigue. Because the more you try to put in your best to see how things changes, it's the more they bring new negative tactics to make sure that you don't succeed. So Nigerians generally are tired. You ask the question, why is the APC not interested in this election? Is it that they won't win in any of the LGs at all? Is it that their councillors, no councillor river, no councillorship opposition will begin, no APC councillor will win? It's also because of the recruitment process. They're not bringing the right people. And then the party who seem to have gotten everything appears to have gotten those with violence, those that they must win. And then if you don't have that muscle, that economic muscle to fight, then you most likely will not get it. So these are the reasons that have made Nigerians to be tired. The violence. Why would I go out to go and vote and on the process I get injured? Of what use? You stay away. So more emphasis should be on how do we sanitize the process.
So when many people can come in.
Very good, that's one. And then two, we take away electoral malpractices, which starts from the parties themselves. In the process of training up a candidate, we need to look at the malpractice that's involved in that area. In fact, why should they sell forms to be so expensive? That is where the problem starts. Forms should be something that is a minimal kind of that can just take care of a few expenses in it, not the huge amount that they put on forms. So by the time people now pay so much to get these forms and hire more to get into offices, they have already spent monies that they will get when they're in offices.
the tendency to recruit back. So it now becomes a business.
It's like investments now. You invest to recoup. So all of us have to change from violence, from malpractice and all of that to make our electoral process more meaningful.
Now, there's another question here, or comment rather. Our leadership recruitment process must be free from violence and malpractices to enable capable and competent citizens participate effectively. This one is from Chinwe Opera. Thank you. Here, our resource person here, Prince, just talked about that. When you make the system credible, you make it open, you sanitize it. The tendency that well-meaning people who have focus and direction, people who have something to do with leadership will likely come in.
Yeah.
I want to we've done so much on the challenges and all of that, the process and all of that. Now we need to talk about what is the way forward. What can be done? What can be done to make the leadership recruitment process more credible? What can we do? What can we do in all of this? Because we cannot just fold our hands and sit down. We have to do something. What needs to be done? What can we do?
First, we have dwelled so much on the issue of internal democracy and how it affects us. The second one, I've also mentioned the issue of continuous training. There's no point for us to wait until it is time of elections before we begin to talk of, engaging those that are participating in discourse. And I've mentioned severally that the issue of political education for the parties, it is critical. It is a critical function of parties to educate their members. It is not the duty of parties to wait until it is election time. Because when it is election time, the mindset is on winning election by all means, because you have not even prepared your people. Then thirdly, I know that the National Orientation Agency, at the school levels, we have started, in fact, we're able to insist on including civic education as part of the curriculum for schools. Why I'm so emphatic about the parties doing their own job, and also of NGOs and CSOs also helping to cultivate the habit of the citizens towards imbibing the tenets of democracy, is because I know that as neutral persons, as neutral parties, particularly the CSOs and the NGOs, that they also have a very major stake. They are very major stakeholders, and people are more likely to listen to them. There is no point waiting until it is election time. That is when budgets are coming, towards political education. That in itself, I think we have to make a change of it. And then for the regulators, there has to be a way of holding regulators to account. I've mentioned here that some of the returning officers are currently being held to account. I think we should see more of this, that after elections, those who may have perpetrated one electoral crime or the other, that they are being brought to account through very quick judicial structures. There have been the campaign for the establishment of electoral tribunals, but we have not seen much of it, especially to handle electoral crimes. We have not seen much of it. And for the citizens too, on the part of CSOs and NGOs, for the citizens too, there has to be continuous sensitization. And for us as an agency, that also is also part of our duty to do so. It is a synergy for everybody. It is a synergy that everybody must be part of. But it is important. They said, if you think that political education is expensive, try mass ignorance. That has to be recognized as a popular saying. So let's see that we educate our people. And then there are also other issues that have come up. They're not too young to run ads. Most of the young people have also mentioned that the forms are expensive. Everything about the electoral process is expensive for them. We also need to look at these areas. what do we do to make sure that we bring younger people in? But let me say that talking about education, why it is important and why the parties should be at the forefront. If you look at our sister nation, that is South Africa, take them for example. The Malema, the opposition leader, and the former president, the immediate former president of South Africa, you won't see them having too much of education. But because they have been in the party from when they were very, very, Jacob Zuma, they have been in the party from when they were very young. They understand what the party stands for and how party interests should be protected, governance and everything. So it is not only when you go into formal education, that is not what matters. What matters more is the fact that you understand the party manifesto, so that anytime you are presented, that you are there. But internal democracy is important. This issue of God, for that reason, we have to fight it. We have to fight it very seriously.
Yeah. So first we need to start from the goal. There is a need for serious reorientation.
Now we are talking solutions. Now,
yes.
What remedy? How do we remedy this?
We need to start from the goal. Parents, we need to begin to change the way they have done things in this 21st century, because it is part of the problem. Parents need to spend more time with their children to know exactly what their children do, who they communicate with, and how they relate with others. Oftentimes, these vices that become bigger when they grow starts when they are young, and nobody is there to look at it to caution them and all that. That is where we start from. 2, our electoral process, we need to improve on it. We don't need to queue up to go and vote. It's outdated. How many of us go to the bank and you walk into the banking hall just to withdraw money? Is it? Few of us. You start at home, you open your phone, you press 1 or 2 buttons. You have sent money somewhere. If you don't have it on your phone, you walk into the ATM, you collect money, and you go. We need to talk seriously around electronic voting. It doesn't have to be 1 day or 2 days voting. Voting can be 1 whole week, voting 7 days. We stay in our houses, bring our phone, or the one download the app, vote from the comfort of our homes. At that level, we would have reduced violence, would have reduced electoral malpractice, would have also reduced the cost of electoral process. Again, our judiciary.
We're just going to come to that.
So we need an judiciary that is autonomous, that doesn't have any kind of direct relationship with the executive or the legislature. They need to be independent, such that when election cases come, they don't start looking at we have to swing judgment this way or that way. Because oftentimes the man who holds the carrot is the one that you most likely want to dance to, so you can get smart to grab. That is what has injured our judicial processes and our electoral process, because after elections everybody goes to the courts. One. So we need to strengthen our judicial process and make them stand on their own as an agent of as an organ of government that is on its own without hindrances.
For want of time, we would have loved to. This topic is massive. If we want to discuss it, we'll continue over and over. But for want of time, this is where we will be winding down and to wrap it up. Before we go, let me just take this. He said from Essentially, he said she's agreeing with you that the cost of selling form should be reduced to the barest minimum so that people can participate. There are some good people who want to participate, but because of the cost of the electoral process, they are scared away from it. So, State Director, sir, one last word. Tomorrow, the local government elections are coming up. What is the take-home word? One last word for the people.
My last word is that the electorate should be out there, vote according to your conscience. fact, accountability starts with the electorates at this point in time. Thank you very much. Don't be dissuaded.
Prince, one last word for the people.
My last word will be that as we go out to vote tomorrow, they should not get involved with electoral malpractice. They shouldn't get involved with electoral violence. Just go vote and go back to your house.
Viewers, this is where we wrap up today's edition of NOA River State Dialogue. The elections are here tomorrow. They are coming tomorrow. This is the time where you go out to speak through your PVC. Don't be an armchair critic. Don't say it would have been like this, it would have been like that. Now is the time for you to go out there and make a statement through your PVC. And when you go out, please be orderly. Cast your vote and go home peacefully. Remember that COVID-19 is very much around the corner. Wear your face mask and adhere strictly to the protocols. This is where we're wrapping up NOA River State Dialogue, proudly powered by NOA River State. My name is Abie Senebo for your uncle. I know you want to catch up with our previous editions. You just go to YouTube and type in NOA River State and subscribe, and then you will make yourself some good. Thank you and God bless you.